Read my lips. Governor Ducey says he will not raise taxes to pay for his teacher pay raise plan, but boy, is it going to cost you. Why the commission to clean up the dark underbelly and corruption of college basketball was a complete waste of time, and how the city plans a cutback to pay it forward for officer pay raises. These stories and more next on the 520. Welcome to the 520. I'm Steve Nunez.
And I'm Artie Mata IV. Thanks for joining us. And alongside, the biggest sellout in Tucson, Arizona.
Hey, I'm not going to fake the funk on the nasty dunk. I grew up a Dodger fan. But let me show you. Yes, I am sporting the Dbacks, winners of their first 10 series to start the season. A franchise record and an MLB record. So there.
We'll check them out in May.
Well, where's your Green Bay Packers jersey?
Let's start, same thing. Start of the Super Bowl back in 2008.
At least I'm all home state, baby.
We'll rep it. We'll rep it.
Normally we kick it off with sports, but we have to address the big elephant in the room, the teacher walkout. Let's get started. Well, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then probably it's a duck, right? Not according to Governor Doug Ducey. Governor is creating a new funding bucket by raising car registration fees between $18 to $24 starting next year. The $149 million will help pay for his education budget plan that calls for 20% pay raises for teachers by 2020 and nearly $400 million in additional funds to fix buildings, buy new textbooks, and give raises to support staff. But Ducey claims the fee hike is not a tax hike. Lipstick on a pig?
Look, are we sure it's not, and are we satisfied? Is this the only way that Doug Ducey can sell it to his fellow Republicans?
Absolutely.
And I don't think that they understand the severity of this. Teachers being forced to pay for their own supplies, work multiple jobs, and now these caretaking spirits who love these kids are being forced to make selfish decisions by not showing up to work because of them.
And look, besides this car registration fee, what Ducey is not telling you is that he is going to stick it to residents who live within TUSD. You know how? He's going to raise property taxes if this budget plan passes. Think about this for a second. TUSD, the biggest district in southern Arizona, the district that has produced more teachers who have walked out, more students who are staying home, ethnic studies. It has been the biggest thorn in Ducey's side. So what is this? Political payback. That's what this is. And it is a tax increase. When Ducey and the Republican-led lawmakers fought against the expansion of Medicaid, they called it a tax increase. Now all of a sudden, car registration and hiking that fee is a fee hike, not a tax hike. Give me a break.
And he has to sell it to them. He has to sell it to the conservatives. He has to sell it to the Republicans by not calling it a tax hike. But to me, I personally would be completely okay with the tax hike. I'd be okay, just like you said previously, with that tax, that half-cent sales tax. I'd be okay if there was a tax sale on, fountain drinks. I would personally pay that forward, no problem.
So basically what he's doing is he's taking money from the desegregation programs. He's maneuvering that money, shuffling it around, okay, taking $16.7 million to pay for that teacher pay raise and raising taxes to residents in TUSD. No other district across the state is going to see property tax raises, okay? Just TUSD. So what is he going to do? Use that property tax to pay and fill the gap where he's taking money from.
And is he ever going to let us as citizens vote on this? Is there ever going to be a situation where he'll let us decide as citizens what's perfect for our own good?
It's a shell game. And by the way, Ducey, if this plan passes, is also taking $8 million, okay, to put to fund the economic freedom schools established at the U of A, ASU, and NAU, founded by the Koch brothers to teach civics and constitutionalism. But guess what? TUSD banned those classes recently because they did not have the state approval for the curriculum. Coincidence?
Of course not.
It's a tax increase.
Thank you, Steven.
Call it what it is.
Back to sports. Did the Arizona Cardinals pull a rabbit out of their hat and ace the 2018 NFL Draft? The Birds traded up to the number 10 slot to get UCLA quarterback Josh Rosen, who some consider royalty when it comes to his NFL ready-made skills. The Cards then followed that up with picking wide receiver Christian Kirk in the 2nd round, who I may add is a Scottsdale native.
Look, you have to give Cardinals GM Chris Keim an A+. Talk about pulling the rabbit out of the hat. He did an incredible job. No one even thought about this. No one thought the Cardinals could trade up and land Josh Rosen. Again, let me be clear. I'm not a Josh Rosen fan. I think he's a baby. I think he's too pampered. But let's be honest. He's a hell of a quarterback, and he does give the Cardinals a franchise quarterback future type player.
Of course.
And you add him with Christian Kirk, another extremely good receiver, with 2 veterans, and David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald. Oh my goodness!
It's a scary sight. It's a scary sight.
It's a very scary sight.
The question is, did the Cardinals ace the 2018 draft? They had to force the 2018 draft. Players like Bo Scarborough, Troy Quinn, dropping like anvils in draft boards. The teams drafting punters and long snappers going in the mid rounds. Teams already filled their needs. They had the pick of the litter by default, so of course they had to ace the draft.
Well, you can't say that they're picking up the litter by default. I mean, Rosen and Kirk are no litter. I mean,
of course,
those are smart picks.
Yeah, but after long snappers and punters being taken, Bo Scarborough, a national championship player.
Next year when they make the playoffs, you're going to take that back.
They're going to win the NFC West.
All right, so are we surprised Dane Cruikshank was the only former Wildcat drafted? Cruikshank impressed at the combines. He ran a 4.4140, and he tested in the top 89% of all NFL combine participants. The Tennessee Titans traded up and drafted the Wildcat with the 152nd pick.
Dane is a special player. I would say in all of the Pac-12, it's so trendy to play bump and sit cover 2, and Dane, he's a special guy because he does that so perfect. He's ready to play some downs in the NFL.
Well, it's amazing how far he came, because think about this. He was at a 2-year junior college in Citrus College in Glendale, California. Arizona, Coach Ducey at the time, discovered him, recruited him to Arizona, and now where is Ducey? He's a running backs coach for the Titans. What did the Titans do? They pick him.
Nothing happens by accident.
And the fact that Dane was able to move up so fast in the draft is because he has, you can't teach size.
Of course.
All right?
I love it about him. I love it about him.
Hey, by the way, real quick, that was the 20th Wildcat to be drafted in the last 20 years.
ASU
10 years,
had like
10 years,
6 people taken in the first round.
All right, well, college athletes know the dangers of playing football. So should the NCAA be held liable for not having a concussion protocol? 110 former student athletes are suing the NCAA in respective conferences, arguing they knew about the debilitating long-term dangers of head injuries, but hid this information from athletes to protect the profitable business of college football. I know where you stand on this. Of course, you want the NFL to soften up. You want college football to soften up and become flag football because, oh, head injuries, oh, helmet-to-helmet contact. Yeah,
I don't want to soften the game. I want to protect the game. Well, let's take an example. The WWE, nothing but entertainment, no technique whatsoever.
You're comparing the NFL to the WWE.
Take a second. The WWE. Name how many WWE wrestlers were dead before the age of 50 because of the WWE's lack of drug testing, their lack of accountability, and their lack of consequences for these drug tests. Because of that, the NCAA can take a different approach. They can educate their players, they can teach them correct technique, and they can start. What I think the problem is the lack of young coaches. These young players that are now graduating using their college degrees are not being coaches. Because of that, these old-timer coaches are still using old techniques, they're still using old drills. These young guys got to funnel in and teach them some new stuff.
Look, here's what it's come down to. Accountability, self-accountability. If you don't want to get a head injury, don't play football. You know why I didn't play football? Because I got a concussion when I was a kid, riding a skateboard, fell off, got a concussion. My mom said, guess what? You're not playing football. I had the athleticism too, but I didn't play football. And so guess what? You can't blame the system when you allow yourself to take advantage of that system.
Of course.
And so, look, I get it. I understand they're looking for riches. The NFL concussion lawsuit settled for what, $867 million?
Like
75 NFL players got the money. I get it. I empathize with them, but I don't want to soften the game because it continues. What is it? No helmet to helmet.
It won't soften the game.
Take away the kickoff because we don't want collisions.
It will prolong the game.
Now let's just sue everybody because he hit me with his helmet on my head. I mean, seriously.
Of course,
it's going to soften the game, and I don't like it.
How could the commissioner on college basketball get it so wrong by failing to understand the issues on cleaning up corruption? After countless hours and dollars spent, the commission led by former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice came up with the following ideas. Get rid of the one and done, allow players to return to school if they go undrafted by the NBA, and ban cheating coaches for life. The commission was put together to change college basketball after the FBI arrested 10 people, including former Arizona assistant coach Emmanuel Book Richardson on bribery and fraud charges.
And I like how you pointed out, after months and months and money thrown into this, guess what the committee's findings? Nothing. I mean, all regurgitated ideas, but none that really solve the evil, deep-rooted, dark underbelly corruption of college basketball. I mean, the one and done. Get rid of the one and done. That's not an NCAA problem. The NCAA has nothing to do with the one and done. The NBA does. And guess what? The NBA is not even going to take up the one and done for another 2 years. Now, as far as allowing athletes or student athletes to hire an agent, how is that going to work? How is that going to clean up anything when agents, what do?
Sell.
Agents are in it to win it. Winning means making money.
Of course.
They are not going to tell you, hey, yeah, go back, you know, because I don't want that shoe deal and I don't want you playing in the NBA so that I can make more money.
And my take on this whole thing is the NCAA will never stop this. If they want to stop this, they have to stop allowing these young men to brand themselves and brand it by themselves. Stop putting them on the front of the ticket. Stop giving them big billboards. Stop letting them do press conferences. Stop letting them develop their personal brands to where they feel like this is a necessary step for them, and start educating them on consequences of graduating without a degree. That's the only way that the NCAA can abstain from this.
Look, here's what I do like, what the commission did do. And it's not much because it's not going to change a darn thing. But I do like the fact that if a player enters the draft and goes undrafted, then the commission is recommending they could go back to school and maintain their eligibility. And I also like the fact that if someone gets busted, I mean straight cold busted for violating the rules, ban them for life. That's probably the best thing, but that's still not going to change the AAU and summer basketball and the millions of vultures who are trying to recruit these kids when they're 9 years old,
taking
long
advantage of
before
them.
they hit the college level.
Of course, I couldn't agree with you more.
All right, so does hockey finally have a chance at success in Tucson? About 9,000 fans packed the Tucson arena to cheer for the Roadrunners in their first 2 home playoff wins against the San Jose Barracuda. If the Roadrunners keep winning, championship fever should and could melt the ice at the Tucson arena. You gotta love this.
Now, representatives of the Tucson Roadrunners, please start shipping the Tucson Roadrunners to receive monetary support with this sales pitch. Look how far we made it without you guys. What can we do with you guys? Start shipping it to be a part of Tucson, to have ownership in Tucson, because I'll tell you what, I just rocked the hat and I feel 1,000 times better.
So do you now know what hockey is as far as, like, do you know biscuit in the basket?
Of course, and the one shot, the double tap, and all that stuff. Yeah, I knew that
do you
prior.
know icing?
I knew that prior. But they sold the entertainment value well, and
do you know what
they do a
between
good
the pipes
job.
is?
Of course, but do the rest of the
straight flat end,
the
baby.
Joe Schmoes, do the Joe Schmoes of Tucson, can they get on board with this? I think they totally can.
Well, I think this is so awesome for Tucson because it's been 40 years, so it's not our fault we don't know about hockey. One, we live in the desert, but two, it's been 40 years since we had hockey in Tucson. In 1975, I believe it was the Tucson Capitals or something like that, Captains or something. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but they started hockey at the TCC, ironically, and folded that same year. In fact, their GM and everyone started quitting before the season ended because it was horrible. But now you compare that to what the Roadrunners have been able to do in the second year. Yeah. It is time we start to learn more about hockey. It's time we embrace the Tucson Roadrunners, and it's time we really, really start to turn it up, baby.
Jump on the boat.
Are you kidding me? We're a basketball town, but we could be hockey in April, May.
Of course. And that's the thing. They've proved that they can win. They've proved that they can last. Now they got to start shipping them out. Start holding youth clinics. Start holding fundraisers. Start attaching their brand to the local restaurants. All of this stuff.
They've done a great job of local marketing and making sure people are at least knowing what that Roadrunner logo stands for. But let's go ahead and take a look at the Roadrunners. 2 playoff games coming up on Friday, May 4th. At the TCC against the Texas Stars, and then they follow up with Game 3 on Monday, May 7th. That's in Austin, and Wednesday, May 9th. So the next 4 games are going to be something we're going to look forward to. Of course, home ice, first 2 games for the Roadrunners, and they've been awesome at home. So, folks, please go and support the Roadrunners.
Of course.
All right, let's jump right into Do We Care? As you know, we love to tackle community issues and not just sports, break them down and ask ourselves, do we care? Well, the Tucson City Council plans to hire 10 fewer police recruits next year to save $650,000 and use that money to give veteran officers pay raises so they don't leave the force for higher pay. Of course, we care.
We have to care.
But fewer police officers.
And that's the entire problem about it. Response times are terrible. After that, because of that, they have to focus on big things, and little things are out of control, down to traffic violations, which is at risk for our own safety.
In the city's defense, the police union says it's a good start. But TPD right now is still down 400 officers. They have 800 on the force. They should have around 1,200. You know what's happening in this city right now? Okay, we need to hire more, not hire fewer recruits and then lose more to attrition, etc. We just need to straight out try and hire 200 recruits and figure out a way to give them veteran officers pay raises. Our murder numbers in Tucson are over 40 right now. We're on pace to hit a record 70. What's happening?
We can't keep them.
We need more officers on the streets. Bottom line.
Of course.
This is a start, but not the end.
We'll take it. A Senate panel has approved a measure in Governor Doug Ducey's school safety plan that allows judges to force some people to surrender their guns.
I am shocked, but I have to give state lawmakers kudos for at least surrendering this concession, because they were so against Ducey, Governor Ducey, when he proposed this as part of his school safety plan to allow a federal judge or a judge to basically rule that someone is not mentally capable to have a gun, so take it away from them. They hated this proposal. So I'm thinking, why did they do this? Then I'm thinking back and I'm like, okay, the budget is in play. Here's what I'm thinking. They surrendered this because they're going to take some money that we're going to find out about that's hidden in the budget to hire more school resource officers, put some guns on them, and have them in the schools. That's what's going to happen. I guarantee you. I'll put a cheeseburger bet on that one.
And aside from that, I'm just finally glad that they're taking some stress away from these students who, at the time, this is the most stressful thing going on for them, and they're not walking around with guns all over the place, for goodness sakes.
All right. Well, Pima County has approved a plan to use $16 million in 1997 HERF funds, or gas tax dollars, to fix more than 40 sections of pothole-filled roads. Of course, we care.
And this has absolutely been so counterproductive. This was such a good idea. It's counterproductive for the Arizona government. There are no more excuses. No more excuses for we can't find money when they just looked in the seat cushions and found a whole bunch of it.
Here's what I'm going to say. 1997 HERF funds.
As old as me.
How did it take you 21 years to find 1997 HERF funds?
Oh my goodness.
What about 1998, 1999? Look for it. Somebody find it. Let's fix the roads, right?
Of course.
All right. Well, you've heard the phrase, oh no, you didn't. Well, here at the 520, we're not afraid to tell it like it is with, oh yes, we did. Well, don't believe the hype. As the saying goes, the devil's in the details. Governor Ducey claims he will not need to raise taxes to pay for his new education budget plan that promises to give teachers 20% raises by 2020, plus pump an additional $371 million into public schools over the next 5 years. In other words, Ducey admits teachers and support staff are grossly underpaid, schools are dilapidated and crumbling, and textbooks are outdated. So how is a self-proclaimed savior of public education going to pay for his nearly billion-dollar plan? Voila! The state's booming economy, fueled by mattress firms on every corner, just so happened to pump an additional $262 million into the state budget through March. Here's what Ducey doesn't want you to know. The next time you register your car, oh yes, you can expect to pay an extra $18 to $24. Ducey claims this registration fee, as we discussed earlier, is not a tax hike. It's a fee hike that'll rake in about $149 million per year to help pay for his education funding plan. Yes, it is a tax hike. Bottom line, whenever a shell game is played, everyone's a loser, and it still comes at a cost to taxpayers. So when a politician tells no new taxes, don't believe the hype. And there's one surefire way to tell if they're lying: when their lips are moving.
Fantastically said, Steve. And now here it is back in the headlines amidst the diluting hotbed topic of silent protests by Colin Kaepernick and Aaron Reed. Both players have received the cold shoulder throughout the NFL offseason, solely because of these protests, as teams choosing deplorable veterans and winless rookies over two proven top-caliber players. Mr. Eric Reed has now decided to take his stand to a higher level. Eric Reed has filed a collusion grievance against the NFL and has appointed Colin Kaepernick's attorney. Now stop, settle down before you bring up player performance. Aside from Kaepernick, who was crudely copied and pasted into a failing offensive scheme, Eric Reed is quite the opposite. Reed, rated 81.4 overall by Pro Football Focus, a man who solely made 26 defensive stops on 51 third downs, is now on the brink of unemployment over Tyvon Branch of Arizona, who missed 7 games in 2017, and Morgan Burnett, who signed with Pittsburgh after the Packers seriously thought it was a better idea to develop a rookie instead of giving him more practice reps. By the way, those were the only two safeties ranked higher than Reed on PFF's article titled Top 50 Unrestricted Free Agents. It's clear to me that the NFL has been listening all too hard to Trump and uninformed journalists aimlessly belching around. The NFL's ratings are down because of the protests. Well, you know what? You're absolutely right. The down ratings have nothing to do with $200 a month cable charges or changes in the NFL's regional broadcasts, where now I can only watch my favorite team if they're playing the Monday night game, or even the fact that I personally watch the games illegally on sites like Reddit and YouTube. It's those two yahoos silently protesting, holding clinics in underprivileged communities on how to properly speak to police, that the NFL has now banned from their life's work for truly being patriots and using their platform for good.
Well said. And I will say this. I think this is going to end up in the Supreme Court discussing or ruling on when an employer can determine one's personal rights or beliefs and enforce that at work. Because
I think it should.
It could come down to freedom of speech. It could come down to religion. It could come down to civil rights. I mean, all of the above. And I think that's where it's going to end up. I honestly do.
Let it be. Let it be.
All right. Before we go, we want to show you a video. All right? Artie, you need to look at this. Take some notes, man. This fan right here, yeah, cha-cha-cha. He is, oh, look at the moves. He's got moves like Jagger. This fan right here goes to every U of A baseball game and tears it up. This is nothing new. And he does it during the 7th inning. He does it in between innings. I don't know his name, but I'm going to call him, I think he's awesome. That's what I'm going to call him, Mr. Awesome. What an incredible video. I love it.
Take notes.
We need more fans like that to go not only to U of A baseball games, U of A softball games, but Tucson Roadrunner games. That's what I'm talking about.
I love it. I love it.
So I'm going to see you dancing at the Roadrunners game.
It's not me. You'll see that guy dancing at the Roadrunners game.
Well, we got to find him and make sure he can dance. I love those moves.
Of course, of course. There we are.
All right. Well, bottom line, our goal is to tell it like it is, because it's all about giving voice to opinions, even if you don't agree.
Be sure to follow the 520 on Facebook and on Twitter at the 520 Tucson.
And if you have a topic you'd like us to cover, please feel free to email us at the 520@kvoa.com.
Fantastic.
Well, I'm Steve Nunez.
And I'm Artie Mata IV. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Go Wildcats.